Hey everybody, how are you doing? I'm glad to see you here live on YouTube, Facebook, and wherever else this is streaming. I'm using Restream, which is a great product that streams to multiple platforms. But what I wanted to do today is answer some questions and actually give you a ton of information based on my one of my last videos. It was the 10 tips for Goodwill shopping. So basically Goodwill and thrift stores and everything. And I just talked about my techniques and what I do when I go into a thrift store and how I think and attack the thrift store market, trying to find things to buy and resell in the secondary market. I'm actually working on a huge project right now that's going to probably be a 5 or 6 episode where I'm actually going to put my money where my mouth is, show you how to go to the yard sales and estate sales over a 3 or 4 day period and how much money can be made. And it's going to be all live and the real deal. So that should be fun. However, I had a series recently called five things to sell that are hotter than hell. And I tried to feature 5 different genres every week that you may not have heard of before. And one of the things I thought was really interesting was I kept coming up with more and more subjects and genres that a lot of people didn't know about, and they would text me or put in the comment section below that, oh, thanks for the information, I didn't know that. And I really started to think about all of those things out there that are collectibles that people don't know about. This found money 52 ideas idea came to me from that section. And here's the deal. This is the part that I think is really important. There are so many things out there to learn, to buy and sell, that you can make money on, that it's overwhelming. And the reason I've always known more than, because I was a generalist and an appraiser, and people would bring me things to appraise. And that's how I found out. When someone said, oh, I have this collection of X and it's worth money, and I had never heard of it before, doing a little research using the tools that appraisers use, you would find out, hey, there's a whole subject here that I didn't even know about. So I found that really fascinating, and I just wanted to share that with you. But here's the deal. I got some negative comments in the Goodwill section on my Goodwill video about 10 things to sell and 10 tips. And what I found fascinating was how many people were angry. They're like, hey, don't let people in on this secret. Well, that's my whole purpose of my channel. My whole purpose of my channel is to introduce everybody to the secondhand subculture. There's a reason we want people shopping. It's good for our secondhand economy. You want more people, auctioneers for years have always wanted to get those retail shoppers that go to the antique stores and go to the antique malls. Why don't they go to auctions? And there's all these negative connotations, or they don't understand auctions. They don't understand that you can go. I just had an auctioneer say to me, the hardest thing they fight is people go, how much does it cost to get in my auction? Oh, it's free. What do I need to, bid? And what do people were, they're confused and they don't think they're allowed to go, or they scratch their head, something will happen. Then you have the dealers that don't want, they're not going to tell you if they got a good deal at an auction because they don't want anybody else to know about it. I find this really short-sighted, and this is the whole premise of today's talk. It's, if you are finding it hard to buy in the genre you like I have, my thing is, I love vintage toys. I like, I just like vintage toys, vintage musical instruments. There's a ton of competition in those genres. So, it's not a secret anymore that vintage guitars are worth money. It's not a secret that vintage, toys are worth money. So there's generally competition in those areas. And when my whole point of my thrift store tip was knowing when the good stuff gets put out and finding when, so you were first in line to get it because it's an even playing field. They put it out and anybody that knows anything is there to make the purchase. Whereas in an auction and you have competitive bidding and 20 other people know about the genre, it's really hard. So what I have found the most powerful thing you can do, and this is the whole thing, is educate yourself. There are so many things. If you're at a sale and they have 10 toy buyers there, but they don't know anything about quilts, knowing something there could really help you. So here, I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to go through my list. Okay. This list will probably end up being 52 episodes of shows. I'm really contemplating doing it as a podcast. By the way, if you want to chime in and shoot me a chat and let me know if that's what you would do, I'd really be happy about that. If you think you like that as a podcast, or if you just like it, I'm going to continue doing them as YouTube videos as well. But anyway, so let me go first. Okay, action figures. All right, this is A to Z of collectibles. All right, action figures. Now, what do you have there? You have, everybody knows Star Wars, but you have He-Man is a genre. Thundercats. Hey, hi, Mike in Michigan. You have Thundercats are a genre. He-Man, Micronauts, G.I. Joe. I could go on again. I could do a whole episode about all those collectibles. Let's go to auto parts. There are vintage auto parts. Hey, 1933 wheat penny. Somebody just kicked in. I'm going to get there. I haven't gotten there yet. You have untapped resources in auto parts. There's vintage, new in the box. Dad left it in the garage. He meant to install something, and now it's worth a lot of money because it's new old stock. Barbie. There's a whole collectible market. Barbies. There's a million things to know about Barbies. Barbie clothing, some vintage Barbie clothing is worth more money than any antique furniture you've ever seen. I mean, it's just really, Barbie is a whole world unto itself. Barware, really in right now. Mid-century barware, glasses, knowing what's hot, what that could make you money. Baseball cards. Okay, I just said baseball cards, but there's hockey cards, football cards, they're non-sports trading cards, which are the cards that came out for TV shows in the 50s and 60s. Gilligan's Island trading cards are worth a fortune. The auto stuff, I like it. Motorcycle, new old stock. See, you guys know. Let's keep going. All right, so we have bicycles. They're vintage bicycles, like those 60s and 70s lemon peelers and the Schwinn, the Schwinn banana seats. Super hot. You don't have to be the super antique market. Board games. I used to make a living just buying and selling board games. There is a huge market for board games. Okay, now that I said games, let's throw in, because I don't even think it's on my list, Pokemon, card games, all of that stuff. Okay, huge genre. There are people that make a living just doing that. Okay, books. Scratch off lottery tickets. There's a billion books out there that are worth a small fortune. Breyer Horses. Someone gave me that the other day. I forgot. I had to look up. I'm like, I thought that market was soft. It's heating up again. Girls and their horses. Figure that one out. Vintage calculators. Yes, there's a whole world that collects vintage calculators. Got to know what to look for. All of these you need to educate yourself in what to look for. Cameras. So I got somebody, stop talking about books. Yeah, I know, because people don't want competition. You'll be fine. Trust me. This is like what happens with a lot of this is it's first day. I call it first day of fishing. I'll give somebody some ideas. They'll look around. They'll find something and make a score, or they don't catch anything that day and they'll never do it again. This is not an easy job, but it's a job if you're passionate about it. And I always say, do what you like. When I give you all these, if you can't find 10 genres you like, you're not a secondhand. You're not in this business. You're not into it. So, all right. So now we have cast iron door stops. Okay. I'm still in the C's. Cast iron door stops. There are tons that are worth a lot of money. The turn of the century Hubley, some arcade. I mean, there's door stops. People collect just door stops. Let's see. Christmas ornaments. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many Christmas ornaments from the 30s to like the 60s. You're looking for the German, Eastern European. There's some, I featured a Krampus a figurine. There's candy containers. They all fall into this Christmas ornaments. All right. Matter of fact, I'm going to look forward. Yeah, I don't even have Halloween on my list. That's a whole genre. So let's put that in the Christmas and call it holiday collectibles. Next, we have clocks. Yes, there are people that still collect clocks. That market had gotten soft for a while, and they still are. I mean, the turn of the century, really, your antique clocks are only fetching a couple $100, whereas some of them were a couple $1,000 a few years ago. But again, a couple $100, knowing what you know, that's money. All right, coins. Again, do I have to go on all day? So coin collectors, I know people who have collected coins their entire life and do not mess with foreign coins. And the people who collect foreign coins, it's a secret and they're really in on it. Yeah, I'm going to get there too. You guys are chiming in with some great stuff. All right. Comic books. Again, whole world there. You have comic books. I could go on to Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, learn your comic books. But the modern era comics, there are modern comics from the 2000s that are worth a ton of money. If you're passionate about it and learn about it, you can make a living because you have the knowledge that other people don't have. Yeah, mid-century modern clocks. But anything mid-century modern. I don't even have that as a genre, and I have over 50 genres on here. So here we go. Computers. Yes, vintage computers. Everybody heard about that Apple that sold a few years back for several $1 million. I'm sure, but there's just knowing about vintage computers. There are people, early versions of the Apple computers are good. Amiga computers, which was an offshoot of Commodore, like a clean Commodore 64 or VIC-20 are worth a couple $100. A ColecoVision Atom computer system, they're worth some money. You got to know these ones. Texas Instruments has a couple. Costume jewelry, again, entire world onto itself. There are a million pieces that you could make money on. It's Weiss, Eisenberg, Trafari, Carnegie. I could go on and on. There are so many different costume jewelry makers. Chanel, I mean, that are worth a lot of money, and people don't think it's worth anything because it's not gold and it's not silver. All right. Next, dolls. Yes. One of the banes of my existence, and I dread them for the most part, other than Barbie. But dolls as a genre, your German Kessners and French Jumeaux, all the turn of the century stuff, a lot of people have written them off in their head, and they just go, they're not worth anything. Oh, I'm getting to that one, Mike. They're not worth anything, and that's not true. I mean, there's several dolls that are still worth several $1,000s, but again, a couple $100 for a good German doll that you pick up in an estate sale for $20, it's a profit. And these profit margins aren't the kind of, that's what you're going to learn in my next series I'm working on. These profit margins are what you need to look at, because this is like the crazy Bitcoin kind of stuff that people are trying to do in cryptocurrency. This is, you buy it for $5 and sell it for $50. And that doesn't sound like, oh, wow, I made $45. But if you can do that 100 times a day, I mean, this is better than anything you're going to buy, any stock you're going to buy, it really is. Oh my gosh, where am I? I am at duck decoys. Okay, duck decoys, carvings. I've watched several duck decoy auctions just recently with 6-figure duck decoys. Now, again, you need to know what you're looking at. This is not, your Uncle Jim carved one 3 weeks ago at the craft fair. This is the real deal, period. And the carvers, you gotta learn this. But again, if you're passionate about it, if you like this kind of stuff, hunting collectibles, which I don't have on my list, but they fall into that. And also there's fish decoys. And there's also, I got to do a plug for WorthPoint. Yes, WorthPoint is excellent for looking these up. And let me send you a link, and they'll pay me for sending you to a link. But I'm not here to do that today. I'm here to educate you on every single thing I possibly can think of. And again, there are more. Ethnographic. Okay, I needed an E. Ethnographic covers African collectibles, your Pan-Pacific, Indo-Persian, Native American. These are genres you can only collect that or only buy and resell that and become an expert in that and make a very good living because they don't have a large base. You don't have a lot of competitors. I know some buyers here locally that know their African really, really well. And again, knowing the difference between a tourist piece from the 80s from somebody's trip abroad and knowing a piece that's 19th century can mean the difference of thousands of dollars. And if you know what you're looking at, this is money. Again, fashion accessories. Okay, I didn't put costume jewelry in there. I got handbags, scarf. You can learn these things and know, I don't have ladies' shoes on here, so I'm going to throw it in my fashion accessories. But, handbags. I know people that make money just buying and selling bags. There's all of these things. If you become an expert in them or 4 or 5 of these genres, you will be able to make a very good living in this industry. Okay. Here's one of my favorite ones that I always tell everybody. As a matter of fact, Mike just chimed in with Aloha. I think I'm going to give you a live stream one of these days, and because you always chime in with you can be my brain when it doesn't work, like right now. But he says Aloha, Hawaiian. Oh my gosh, there are some Hawaiian antiques that would just blow your mind. The prices. Okay, here I'm at F. Firecracker labels. Okay. That one, prime example, a good friend of mine brought me a collection of firecracker labels to sell online for him several years ago. And I looked at him like he was out of his freaking mind. I'm like, why would somebody buy these? Well, after I got him about $75,000 for about 40 or 50 of these things, I've been on the lookout for firecracker labels ever since then. So if your dad has any old firecrackers in the attic or in the basement, just the packages, just with the label on there, and they're from the 50s and 60s, you got a lot of money. It's cash. All right. Next, fishing lures. I'm not kidding. There are six-figure fishing lures. There are people that collect nothing but fishing lures. I was at an auction. I remember holding a lure, and as the auctioneer I was just working there as a runner, and it sold for $15,000. And I was like, "What on earth? You dare not cast this in the water?" I'm sure either that or when you throw it in, it catches the fish and cleans it for you and hangs out and talks to you the whole time. Anyway. But $15,000 for a fishing lure. I think I just posted a bunch that sold for like $3,000 and $4,000. These are your like 1930s Heddens and Glass Eye, and you need to know what to look for. But again, your grandfather has them in his tackle box. All right, flatware. Okay, I have flatware as broad. I don't have this even classified as silver because there are stainless steel flatware sets that are worth a lot of money. Everybody knows sterling is worth some money, but again, they don't know the rare patterns that are actually worth more than silver. And then there's the silver plate sets, that your Danish sets and some Scandinavian designers from the 80s that can be $10,000, $15,000 for a set of forks and knives that you would take these to a jeweler that says, "We buy silver," and they would go, "We're not interested," because they don't know. I'm not kidding. I'll tell you a story about a Rolex like that. We had a stainless steel Rolex that was the junk after the jewelry buyer came to someone's house and purchased all of their jewelry. They brought a stainless steel, a bunch of watches, and there was a stainless steel Rolex in there from the 40s, and it was $15,000. And a jeweler did not know that. They weren't even interested in it. They wanted they wanted the presidential gold model. This was worth more. Anyway, fountain pens. There's a world that wants your fountain pens. They collect nothing but fountain pens. So do you know that when you're at an auction or you're in an estate sale and you're going through the drawers and the box lots, do you know that there could be a pen in there that's worth more money than everything in the house? It's true. Furniture I have down here, I have mid-century modern. I have that for Mike, I guess. Mid-century modern, everything mid-century modern is the thing. Yes, Mike sold a 50s Rolex for $9,000. It was stainless steel at an auction a couple of months ago. I think it was at Freeman's. Plug for Freeman's in Philly. Guitar pedals. That's something I was in the know because I was into musical instruments. So I knew this one, but this one surprises a lot of people. If your uncle's got a bunch of old guitar pedals and effect pedals and rack equipment, there are old units that can be worth a small fortune. Tape echoes and distortion pedals, an Ibanez tube screamer. These are hundreds and thousands of dollars for guitar pedals. It's really, really cool. All right, lamps. All right. I have lamps on here because that's been my most latest. In the last couple of days, I found some really good mid-century modern lamps at the Goodwill right down, like not a block away. And they were signed. They were dated 1978. They had the maker. It was Westwood. And, $10 a piece. They're $250 a piece. Buy it now, so that's the kind of margins we're talking about. Okay. If you've been watching anything I'm doing, and as a matter of fact, my next video I'm going to be releasing is on Legos, which, by the way, my favorite thing is I never know. I feel like such a dork. This guy goes, Josh, it's Lego. There's no S in Lego. And I'm like, what's he mean by that? Well, I get it now. So I have a set of Lego. I guess there's no plural. It's like deers. I don't know. But anyway, one of my buddies' auction houses here locally, Lonnie from R&R, had an Ewok set of Legos from the mid 2015, and the set new was $200 and it sold for $400. I mean, that kind of margin is out there, and right now Legos are like ridiculous. They're one of those brands that they really have it figured out because people they're cross collectible. I always talk about cross collectibles, those things that like the lowest advertising is a great example of a cross collectible. So if you have a Coca-Cola sign, I don't even have that on here. I don't have Coca-Cola on here. There's people that just do Coca-Cola collectibles. But Coca-Cola, a tin sign from the 30s is worth money for advertising. It's worth money to people who collect vintage advertising and signage. And it's also Coke collectors. So it's a cross collectible. Legos does that Lego. I'm going to say Legos. My Legos, the island of Legos. They have that dialed in because not only is it a cool building toy that people collect the building toys and the minifigures and the collectibles, but it's Star Wars or Harry Potter or you name it. If there's a cool franchise out there, there's a bunch of Lord of the Rings sets. If anybody wants to get me anything, buy me a vintage Lord of the Rings set. When I say vintage, I'm talking like 2014 or 15, and I'll put it away. So, oh yeah, I'm still going, David. I'm not going. Nerd alert. Wow, I got serious nerd. Hey, I didn't put Dungeons and Dragons in my game category because I didn't want to freak anybody out. But one of the biggest scores I ever had way back in the early 2000s was a huge collection of Dungeons and Dragons that I bought at an auction for $1, not even knowing what it was. And I knew Dungeons and Dragons, but that's a story unto itself. All right. Next, I have, that doesn't, I love sometimes I put notes for myself that at the time I knew what I meant, but then I forgot, but now I remember again. I have lunchtime. Lunch boxes. There's a whole collectible thing. Lunch boxes. And let's throw in cereal boxes with lunch boxes. There are people that collect cereal boxes. So, okay, that's a whole thing you can learn. Mechanical banks. Here's a genre. I mean, there are auctions, Bertoya. I'm trying to think who else. There's some auction houses on the East Coast that do bank auctions that would blow your mind. Hey, you got the first D&D box sealed. Is it the 1979 set or the earlier? There's older sets. Anyway, I'll talk to that. Those are the ones nobody knows about. So lunchbox, mechanical banks. So mechanical banks, if you have the real deal, like a J.E. Stevens original casting from back in the day, I mean, these can be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. All right. And they are out there. The reproductions are now starting to bring good money. The 60s and 70s, there was a series called Book of Knowledge where they did really nice recastings, and they're $300, $400, whereas 10 years ago, you couldn't get $15 for them, and people don't know that. And the old savvy antique dealers still remember what they remember, and that's one of the things I was going to talk about. The first TSR, there's an older one than TSR. Anyway, it's there's knowledge. I call it I'm trying to remember the word for it. But anyway, when you've known something, like a price anchor. When you've known something your entire life and it to be true, and then it's not true anymore, it's hard to get past that. So as an antique dealer and a collector, people will get in their mind that something's not worth money. And when it becomes hot, it's hard to break that, and vice versa, as we know, because isn't everything we have worth a lot more money than it actually is in our minds? That's a thing of ownership. There's a psychological thing with ownership where if you own something, you're more likely to think it's worth more. It's that sense of ownership. So let me move on, because I'm still at mechanical banks. Military. There is a genre that there is military is such a huge genre. It can be a million different things. I couldn't get into more of the I'm trying to give you an example. I can't because of YouTube and stuff. I can't do a whole thing on and Facebook. I can't do a thing on like weapons, shall we say? The word I'm even worried about saying, because they won't allow me to restream it. But swords, daggers, knives, patches, medals. There are so many to know from every single war, from every single era, from Roman times, or Greek, Byzantine, all the way up. So again, educate yourself. That's a real subculture, and the people that know that stuff, just really know what it is, and they have an unfair advantage. They're going to make money, but they can't be everywhere all the time. So if you're at that auction and they have that stuff, and it's money. I've made a lot off of bayonets by knowing what bayonet is good and what bayonet is just a $20 bayonet. Musical instruments. Okay, there's one of my passions. But there's always competition in that. I mean, it seems like everybody knows. And it's very easy to look up, because with musical instruments, it's like it usually has a maker, a model, and the internet. Somebody wrote an entire website dedicated to. So if you find a Gibson Les Paul and you have the serial number, there is someone that will tell you every single thing you ever need to know about it ever. So that's a whole thing. The skill set there comes into knowing original parts, but again, it's a very competitive market. But do you know about bassoons? Do you know about trumpets? Do you know about saxophones? Do you know about violins? Violin is that's a college course. I mean, that is really, I know enough to be dangerous, but I would not be bidding against experts. It's just one of those things. But at an estate sale, if I see a good one, I know a good one. So anyway, that's musical instruments can be a whole thing. Now I have this one's kind of again, a billion different things. Paintings. Okay, yeah, watercolor, oil paintings. That there are people who are experts in French Impressionists, but wouldn't know a contemporary artist if they saw it, and vice versa. So you can educate yourself in every one of these genres and make a living. Again, knowing enough about all of these things is a lot better than just being an expert in one thing, because when your genre comes and goes, or it's passé, a lot of my friends who really knew 19th century oils, the last 3-4 years, 10 years, gosh, sometimes it's the last 10 years, it just hasn't really, mattered. And now it's starting to come back, I see. And so that's a really cool thing for them. But again, the contemporary art has been, you've been hearing these multi-million-dollar records. And that's one thing I'm going to say about art. Art is one of those, you can truly change your life with a piece of art, but I could do I can give you nightmare stories about art. But art's the thing you can find at an estate sale or a yard sale. That's $50. That's $5,000. I mean, it's one of those. And again, that's having a good eye, knowing genres and how to look up the artist. I do on my What Is This? I have a couple episodes where I did a live What Is This? And I do a how to look up for free on a bunch of the websites, on Ask Art in particular, how to look up artists and find out if they're worth something, like with very little information, not being an expert. So that might be helpful. And always email me, text me, send me a picture. I'm always happy to look stuff up for you guys. I help people all the time. While I'm sitting here, I got like 3 or 4 texts that come in. I will get back to you. It might take me a little bit. And I'd love my favorite are when I get back to you and go, I can't figure this out. I don't know why. It's kind of and it drives me nuts because I'll keep coming back to it until I get it. Where was I? Paintings, which again, could do a whole show, or 10 or 50. Perfume bottles. There's a genre. Do you know about perfume bottles? There are perfume bottles that are worth several $1,000s. These are things that people throw away that are worth money. Let's see what else. Where am I? Playing cards. That was a new one. Matter of fact, I say a new one. I've known about them because they kind of passed into the board game and toy kind of thing. Playing cards from the 50s and 60s. We won't even talk about turn of the century playing cards. If you have like 19th century playing cards, they can be worth a small fortune. I just saw a set sell for $8,000 that Tiffany used to put out in the 1890s. It was a set, was like what they call a transitional, where it means cards are starting to look like the way we think of playing cards. They didn't look the same in the 19th century and 18th century as we know with the king and the jack and the queen, but there's sets from the 50s. People they collect advertising sets. And I just sold a set truck, it had Peterbilt trucks, and it was like $30. But again, this was $1 at an estate sale, so people look for playing cards. Those are the kind of margins I'm talking about. Buy it for $1, sell it for 30. That fills your gas tank. Postcards. Client of mine just sent me a bunch of photographs of postcards. I remember I wrote an article about postcards in the Arizona Republic, and my staff was really upset because they started getting a million phone calls about people who had postcards, and of course they were all like, "Here's my postcards from my trip to Hawaii in the '90s," and those aren't what the article was about. We were looking for the 1890s, and so your early postcards, what you're looking for Halloween, you're looking for photographic postcards from back, then, because again, a lot of them were one-offs and they didn't make a lot of them. Some of the early Christmas are good, but again, it's lumped into ephemera, and there's a million things in ephemera, but that kind of paper, the real photos are what you're really looking for in postcards. Now we're going to have posters. Okay, posters can be, I'm talking about travel posters from the 20s, 30s, war bond posters from World War I. World War II is not worth as much as World War I and earlier, but I had a client, this is, again, dating myself, this is when I lived in Pennsylvania. I had a client that had found a stash of World War I Royal Air Force posters. Now this is biplanes. Okay, that was the Royal Air Force, and these posters were bringing like $4,000 and $5,000 a piece. And he didn't want anybody to know he had a stack of them. He actually found an actual stack of new old stock from that period. So that was pretty funny. But then concert posters. And again, there's a lot of reproductions out there. So you need to know what to look for. None of these things I'm saying you're just going to walk into a building and find it, or no. You're going to have to educate yourself to all these genres. But again, if you like music and you like concerts and you like records, do I even have records and LPs? Yes, I do, coming up. But anyway, so that's what I mean. All of these jog something in my memory that's a collectible. So we are on concerts and travel posters. Again, I just showed a poster a couple of episodes. That's another thing I want to say. So I have a show called Last Week at the Auction. Last week at the auction, I featured 10 items. I always say the top 10 items that sold. They're not the top 10 highest price items. They're the top 10 items I think in genres that you may not know that you might find interesting. And I scour the auction results every week looking for those interesting things. And it's not one-offs. It's genres that I want you to learn about. It's a free education. It's a way you will learn. So if you just watch either 3 or 4 minutes of your life every week, you will literally get some new nugget of some collectible that you're like, oh my gosh, somebody paid that for that. Like I think we had a carved quail folk art piece brought $10,000-$15,000 in Chinese. Oh my gosh, that market is hot. Anyway, I don't even have that on here, by the way. Okay, I guess we'll throw it in ethnographic. All right, I move on. I'm at quilts. Okay. By the way, this is literally A through Z, and I noticed I'm only missing like 2 letters. And as soon as I realized the letters I was missing, and I figured I had H, so we'll go Hawaiian for Mike. I was missing H, and anyway, I could be icons, Russian icons. So that's a whole collectible genre there. What else are we at? We are at quilts. Yes, Pennsylvania Dutch in me wants to tell you about quilts. There are quilts that are worth a lot of money. It's actually, that kind of died out about 3-4 years ago too. And now I've heard it's coming back. You're seeing, especially the blue and white and the two-tone, they're coming back. I saw a blue and white quilt, early 20th century. Again, probably somebody found it in a blanket drawer, just brought $2,500. All right. You probably throw it out of Goodwill, donate it. Rugs. Again, that is a whole world unto itself. It could be Native American rugs, Oriental rugs, Persian rugs, Indo-Persian. There are if you learn about rugs, there is a small fortune to be made there. That is a secret cult you need to break into to find out. A matter of fact, I was talking to a client of mine from New York that was talking about putting a YouTube series together to educate people. And I said, oh my gosh, I would watch every episode because I'm fascinated because it is really, really kept close to the vest. All right, here's one that I really need to learn about. So you guys will love this. Sneakers. There is so much money flying around right now in sneakers. It's like, did I even skip? I don't even have Pokemon on. It's like Pokemon. It's like Magic the Gathering cards. Sneakers. I need to learn. I learned Pokemon because I had to for something I was working on, and I'm glad I did because in my first foray, my first box lot, I bought a Pokemon. I made a couple $1,000s, so that was lucky because I'd already bought the box. But learning what they were and how to market them properly and advertise them and call them what they were was a whole new thing. Sneakers. I have a really good friend, Scott, up in Prescott, that just told me about a set of sneakers he just sold for $5,000 that he got at the flea market up there. All right, $5,000 are Air Jordans, and they were in a rare blue color. However, again, there are so many sets of sneakers that are now worth a small fortune, and there is a whole subculture that wants vintage sneakers. So did you know that? Are you looking for those? You know, again, people can't be everywhere at the same time, and everybody has feet. Everybody had these sneakers. If I could go back in a time machine to my graduation class, 89, there were a lot of those sneakers on those feet that just sold for $5,000. No joke. Who knew? Let's see. Where were we? Sneakers, stereo equipment. All right. Every Goodwill I walk in has stacks and stacks and stacks of vintage stereo equipment. However, you got to know what to look for. You're looking for any of the old tube stuff. You're looking for Marantz, Macintosh. Oh my gosh. There's so many different tube models. Knowing what turntables are worth money. But again, if they're asking $20 for a turntable and it's 150, is that not a fair profit margin for you to make? Okay, that's out there all day. Stereo equipment, there is so much to learn there. I could throw in microphones with that. There are microphones. Ham radio. There's my H. Ham radio. I knew I'd come up with a good H. That's not even Hawaiian. Well, there's probably Hawaiian ham radios. Maybe that could be a genre. But no, we have ham radios and their microphones. There's people still use ham radios. I was just doing a yard sale right up the street, and the guy, I looked in his garage, and it was one of those ones where they set their table up front and they're like, "Don't look in my garage. Look at the junk I have out front." And of course, we all look in what you got in your garage. And I saw a ham radio. I saw it in a static microphone. It's probably worth about $300-$400. It was a gold static ham radio mic, if you know what I'm talking about. And I said, "Ooh, how much for the ham radio microphone?" And he's like, "Not for sale. We do ham radio on the weekend." I was blown away. He was like younger than me, and he's doing ham radio. So that's pretty cool. So, of course, it's because it's the end times, and he knew that'd be the only way he could talk to the other people that survived the Holocaust. But that's just actually true and really why he had ham radio. But again, I understand that. So tools, that's a whole nother tools. What do you know about vintage tools? All right. So everybody goes, what do you mean? There's axes that are worth money. There are planes that are worth money, wood planes. There are rulers, old Stanley folding rules that are worth a lot of money. There are tools from machine shops, micrometers that are worth a lot of money. These tools were very expensive and they still are. Lathes, jeweler lathes. If you ever see a lathe that looks like a little toy lathe, not your big giant lathe, but a little toy one, they're $300 or $400 plus, depending on if they have all their attachments. I mean, the last one I think I saw a friend of mine sold for $800, and it was a Unimat little jeweler's lathe. There's a lot of people probably going, shut up and stop telling us all these little, all my little secrets. But I want you guys to know that. Okay, trunks. All right, I have travel trunks on here because I always talk about, I remember one of the first major scores I watched someone get at an auction. They bought this old trunk that was like whooped and disgusting looking and like had stickers all over it. And they like won it for like $110 and they're like all over the place, so excited. And I'm like, can I ask you, is there money like in the trunk or something? They're like, no, it's Louis Vuitton. And I looked at him like, it is? How'd you tell? It's so dirty. Opens it up and there's a little badge in there. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. I'm like, so? And he goes, I can sell this for $3,000. I saw him a week later. He sold it for $3,500. It was gone. So that knowing that is worth some money. Tube radios. Okay. Now I didn't put that on stereo equipment because tube radios are like a thing unto itself. I'm talking like the old breadboard radios and the, your Philcos and your Magnavox and all that. Emerson, there are Bakelite radios that are worth a lot of money, and like a good Tombstone, Catalan Swirl, if you know what I mean. It's a Bakelite with like swirled colors. There are some that are worth several $1,000s. But again, you got to know what to look for. There's a lot of albatrosses out there. There's a lot of radios that are boat anchors. You know what else? When I said boat anchor and I didn't see it on my list, sewing machines. Sewing machines. There is a lot of money in vintage sewing machines if you know what to look for. If you're looking for like your Singer featherweights, there's a lot of sewing machines out there worth a lot of money, and there's a lot of boat anchors. But knowing, and another one I just realized I don't have on here. Oh my gosh, typewriters. How do I not have typewriters on here? Portable non-electric typewriters. There are models even, and again, I remember how I talked about knowing what I know and what I was telling people, like, I'm trying to think how long ago it was. I was telling people like, those aren't worth any money. What you're looking for are the old typewriters before we had the QWERTY keyboard. If you know what I'm talking about, the home keys where they're at, the QWERTY and if the keys don't look like what we have today, the modern layout of a keyboard, they're worth a lot of money. That's what you're looking for. And then these, the portables you don't want. Well, I'm wrong. They're now just in demand. People, the millennials seem to really like a good vintage portable. It's aesthetically pleasing. They like to have it on a shelf. And I say I'm painting with a broad brush. I don't know if you collect typewriters, but you understand what I'm saying. I just sold a typewriter for like $350 a couple of days ago. That's what you're looking for. Let's see what else. Because those weren't on my list. Those are freebies. They're all freebies, by the way. Tubes, vacuum tubes. That was to get my V in there. Vacuum tubes. All right. The tubes that went in old tube radios, the tubes that went in old guitar amplifiers, the tubes that went in computer equipment and everything. I remember we had a tube, what do you call it? Telephone answering machine. That's funny. Like $1,500 it was in the 60s. That'll tell you what it was probably worth, what? $20,000 by today's money, a $1,500. They're now worth about $40. But the tubes inside were worth more money than the unit. So I just featured them on the last episode of Things That Sell, and it was there were some 12AX7 preamp tubes like you would use in a Fender Marshall amp or a Fender Twin Reverb, and they brought like $2,100 for a few little tubes, because they knew what they were. There's power tubes, 6L6s, EL34s. Does that sound like, again, these are not, I don't expect you to know all of this stuff, but that's where you can make a living on these areas that people don't know about. Having a broader range of knowledge and educating yourself for free on YouTube is where you can really learn this stuff. Video games. Again, I told you I was super into board games, but video games in the early 2000s, I was selling Intellivision cartridges, Atari, ColecoVision, Vectrex, the Odyssey. And if you'd find sealed, they were bringing what I thought was a lot of money, a couple $100 a piece. Some of the Nintendo RPGs, even then, the NES system had some Final Fantasy and some RPGs that were imports that were selling for, several $100s. And I thought that was a lot of money. Did you see what that Mario Brothers just brought? Boxed Mario Brothers. I want to say it's like 650,000. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Some of the first Sega before the Sega Genesis are worth a lot of money. Any of these, if you find box examples or carded put away, Neo Geo, man, I forgot about that one. I had the Saturn, the Sega Saturn, the Dreamcast, all of those, and they all had these really crazy RPG games that are worth today a ton of money. And they're only, again, that's a collectible, just like it's a baseball card to people. You have to think, you're like, well, why does someone collect that? Because it's their baseball cards. They weren't a big fan of baseball. They were a big fan of video games. And sneakers, same thing. That's what they're fan of. Neo Geo, thanks for that one. Man, I forgot about that one. Oh, brain cells, where did you go? Okay, next I have vinyl. Yes, records. As a matter of fact, I have a couple videos on record players, on like reviews. By the way, that's how I make money these days. Actually, I do review videos. I actually check the stuff out and do review videos. And if you watch my review videos and then you go and shop on Amazon through my links, they give me a commission, which is amazing. And it doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't cost them anything. So somebody's paying for it, probably the retailer. Sorry, but I'm your sales rep, so I'm working for you. But anyway, vinyl, again, everyone used to know, like, Northern Soul 45. That's what you were looking for. And then it was like, oh, wait, but there's obscure jazz records, but I don't want anybody to know they're worth money. So then all of a sudden, everybody figured out jazz records were worth money. And then they're like, punk records. I don't want anybody to know that 80s punk is worth a lot of money. It's worth a ton of money. Yeah, regional 45s. If it's a 45 from a local band that only was in that area, that's what you're looking for. But punk records, I remember I had a couple punk records I put on eBay for people back in the early 2000s, and I was shocked. They were worth a lot of money. Metal is big right now. It's like those metal records you're looking for. Again, first pressings, Kiss and Iron Maiden and Slayer and Venom. Give me some Venom. By the way, don't listen to Venom. It'll scare you and give you nightmares. Anyway, you can listen to Venom if you want to, but definitely not King Diamond. Don't listen to King Diamond. Let's see. Walkman. Here we go. This is one I didn't want to give away, and I'm going to do it. Sony Walkman. If you have the first editions of the Sony Walkman, the first ones, all right, a little cassette Sony Walkman, the blue one, $3,000-$4,000. Did you just run out of the room going to see if you have yours, or did you already get rid of yours like I did and everybody else did? Yeah. Okay. Dresden. Yeah, there we go. Any heavy metal vinyl that never made it to CD. Great tip, Mike. Thank you so much. Watches. I have watches on there. Broad scope. But the reason I have them on there so broad is because watches, can be pocket watches. It can be, and again, everyone thinks old pocket watches are worth a lot of money. The layman does. They go, look, I have my grandfather's pocket watch. It must be worth a lot of money. And then I go, no, these were like the iPhone of their day. They made 20 billion of these. By the way, I do believe that first and second generation iPhones and iPods and all that stuff will be worth a ton of money too. So if you find the original iPhone, put it away, sit on it for a little bit. Probably already is while I'm talking about it. Country Western LPs. You are correct, but no one should listen to Country Western. I'm kidding. I'm just a metal guy from back in the day. There are some really great country guys. Being a guitar player, Dwight Yoakam's guitar player is probably one of the best guitar players I ever heard in my life. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Oh, yearbooks. I have this on here. I don't have it in books for a reason, because it's more specialized. Yearbooks, and what you're looking for is that cross collectible. You're looking for, the reason it's cross collectible is because you're looking for a yearbook that has a famous person that's signed. So it's like entertainment memorabilia. I didn't cover that. So basically, I remember I just saw something where Obama's yearbook from Hawaii brought, $5,000-$6,000. I remember a friend of mine had George W. Bush at Harvard had the yearbook with him in it, and they had his father with the as a cheerleader, with the megaphone and stuff, and they brought several $100s. He hadn't signed it. If he would have signed it, it would have been worth more. Then I'm on Zippos. I'm at my last of this list of 53, of which I've probably said 7 or 8 others. Zippo lighters. I used to once hold the record for the highest price a Zippo ever sold for on eBay. This was back in the 90s. I believe it's $2,700 for a Zippo lighter. Today, I'm sure that record has been crushed. It was Freddy Krueger's junior year. What? Fred Krueger's junior year? You mean actually yearbook? I love these. Oh, people, you're getting me. So, but Zippo lighters, that's a whole nother thing. If you know what you're looking at, they can be worth a lot of money. You know what I didn't have, now that I said Zippo knife? I didn't go into knives because I kind of threw them in the military, but pocket knives. There are pocket knives that are worth a ton of money. Let's see what else I can talk about. Let me look around. I always look, something will jog my memory. I said Halloween, ethnographic. I didn't get it. Like I said, I didn't put Chinese as a thing, but it really, that market right now, if you're a gambler, and I don't even really mean gambling, if you see good early Chinese stuff, or you're in an estate sale and they got a bunch of Chinese stuff, and again, not reproduction stuff from the 80s and 90s, but if you see it and it's $20-$30, buy it. The worst thing you're going to do is get a $20 education. Have you ever bought a scratch off lottery ticket? I mean, come on. What Zippo lighter was it? It was a Vietnam, not World War II like most people. It was a Vietnam fighter pilot. It was a fighter pilot, and it was combat helicopter. That's what it was. Combat helicopter, and it looked like it had taken a bullet on top of it. It really wasn't. Oh, so let's talk about trench art. That's a whole nother thing. Trench art. The things. Oh, I have trench art. Tramp art. Okay, tramp art's a whole nother thing. True tramp art, I don't believe as much of it exists as people accept as tramp art. Where the guys who would get on the railroad would do some art and some carvings, and prison art. That's a whole genre. One of my favorite prison art things I ever saw. Again, Scott up in Prescott had it. It was a guitar that was completely made out of wooden matchsticks. That was awesome. That was really cool. Early CDs. Thank you. Hey, anybody else got good? Yeah, you like the trench art and the tramp art? Man, God, this list. I think I can get to 100. I really do. I think I can make this 100 things to. So how should I make this a book? Should I go 100 things to buy and sell? 100 things to know in collectibles? I don't know. Again, it's you just threw a $50 winning scratch off and they threw it away. Yeah, seriously. That's actually, I know I've actually picked them up off the ground, like outside of a mini market. I'm like, this is a $5 winner. Why did they think they lost? So yeah, that does happen. It's like finding money. So anyway, I hope this helps. So anyway, I didn't know what to call today. Was found money, 52 ideas. And then I ended up with like 60. Goodwill secrets. I give you like the tips. And the reason, I had a friend of mine say, why are you backing Goodwill on this? You should talk about the other thrift stores. And honestly, I'm of that same mindset. I know what you're thinking. And, Goodwill is a great place to buy to resell. It just is. You may not like their model. Some people think they don't know how they have a 503C classification. But I do love to support like the local, like St. Vincent's here locally. There's a lot of Christian Family Thrift is awesome. The SPCA has them, Habitat for Humanity. There are really some great charitable organizations that have thrift stores. And if I'm donating, that's one of my tips was every week I try to also get rid of something because one, you don't want to end up being a hoarder, and two, it's giving back. But Goodwill, secrets, and that Goodwill's great clickbait. That word really works for people watching your videos. If I just said Jim's thrift store, nobody would watch the video. So if I say Goodwill secrets, it sounds. So yeah, there's a method to my madness. Again, I want to really, last week at the auction, there is now 40 plus episodes up there. I think 40 episodes. And there's so much education in auction results. That's why I do it. I do it so you see something that might go, oh, wait, my dad has a stack of comics up in the attic. Oh, wait, we have a clock that looks like that. Oh, wait, we have a Chinese box that looks like that. That's why I do it. And it helps the auction industry as well, because maybe you'll consign with some of these great auction houses. I really want to support the secondary market. It's always been something I'm passionate about. I love this industry. I want people, and nothing gives me a bigger thrill than when I get to tell somebody something's worth a lot of money. Because often, it's, we used to do these appraisal fairs, and somebody comes in with Tupperware and tells you the story about how Neil Armstrong's brother twice removed gave it to their cousin, and the legend is that Neil Armstrong once sneezed on it or something. And you just can't. When provenance comes into play, it really needs to be really well documented. What you want is these artists and names and these guitars and all of this stuff is out there. And I guarantee you, every time I walk into the Goodwill down the street, I miss 50 things because they don't interest me. I always say, collect what you're passionate about, but when you're buying and reselling, it also helps if you like what you're buying and selling, because you might get stuck with it. Yeah, that's funny. That's so true. That is a shout out for Bo. Bo from Bo's Funky Stuff. I love Bo. He passed away just recently, and he was just a phenomenal guy. And I learned so much from him. He was one of those guys. He was one of those pickers that would bring stuff in and say, hey, would you sell this? And I'd look at it and go, he must be out of his mind. And then I remember he did that with he threw a little tiny painting at me and said, I think this is a good one. And it sold for $9,000. So yeah, it was a good one. So you are where I've learned most of this information, and I want to share it with everybody else. So I hope this helps you guys. I hope you found some of this informative. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining. I knew I could talk for an hour without any issue. I do plan on drilling down into every single one of these genres. Episode on action figures, episode on Barbie, auto parts, Barware, baseball cards, bicycles, board games, books, Breyer Horses, calculators. I don't know if I'll do a Breyer Horse one now that I say that. I don't know. Horse people are crazy. You're crazy if you're a horse person. I'm just kidding. No, you're probably really crazy. Anyway, so I thank you guys. This is Josh from Josh Levine Speaks. I hope you like this. Till we stream again, my friends, I will see you soon. That was really cheesy, but I liked it.